I was always the black sheep of my family despite working harder than anyone. For 3 years I thought I had found my forever with Sophia, the woman my parents treated like their own daughter. Never did I imagine she would betray me with Marcus, my golden boy brother who could do no wrong. The family dinner where everyone chose them over me was painful, but walking away from those who betrayed me was the best decision I ever made. Before I share how my own family stabbed me in the back and the sweet karma that followed, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. Hit subscribe if you want to see more stories about coming out stronger when the people closest to you let you down. Growing up in a middle-class suburb of Boston, I always felt like I was living in someone else's shadow. That someone was my brother Marcus, 3 years my senior, and the undisputed golden child of our family. While I struggled with traditional academics, Marcus sailed through school with straight, as became valedictorian, and got accepted to an Ivy League law school on scholarship. Our parents, both educators themselves, made no secret of their preference. My father would introduce Marcus as his son, who was making something of himself, while I was just his other son. My mother kept a shrine of Marcus' accomplishments in our living room, his trophies and certificates displayed prominently, while my construction competition awards gathered dust in a box in the garage. I had always been good with my hands. I could fix anything mechanical and had a natural eye for building things. But these talents meant little in a family that valued academic achievements above all else. After high school, I shocked my parents by rejecting the community college route they had reluctantly planned for me. Instead, I apprenticed with a local builder and learned the construction trade from the ground up. By 32, I had built a respectable construction company specializing in custom homes. I employed 15 people and had contracts booked 6 months in advance. But in my parents' eyes, I was still a disappointment compared to Marcus, who had become a corporate attorney at a prestigious firm in the city. Then I met Sophia at my college friend Jason's wedding. She was the bride's cousin, a stunning brunette, with sharp green eyes and a laugh that made everyone around her smile. We connected instantly over our shared love of classic rock and Italian food. What surprised me most was how easily conversation flowed between us, despite our different backgrounds. Sophia came from money, had a master's degree in art history, and worked at a high-end gallery. On our third date, I took her to see a house I was building for a client. I expected her to be bored, but instead she was fascinated by the process, asking intelligent questions about the design choices and structural elements. That was the night I knew she was special. When I finally introduced Sophia to my family 6 months into our relationship, something unexpected happened. My parents adored her. My mother especially took to Sophia, immediately inviting her for lunch dates and shopping trips. For the first time, I felt like I had brought home something my parents approved of. Marcus met Sophia at a family barbecue a month later. He charmed her with stories of his legal cases and impressed her with his knowledge of art, having represented several galleries in contract disputes. I noticed how he seemed to monopolize her attention, but I brushed it off as Marcus just being his usual center of attention self. As my business grew, I found myself taking on more projects outside of our city. These trips would sometimes last a week or more, as I personally supervised the more complex aspects of each build. I trusted my crew completely, but clients paying for custom luxury homes expected the owner to be hands-on. Sophia was supportive of my ambition, even as the time apart began to wear on us both. It was during this period that I noticed subtle changes in our relationship. Sophia became more distant, taking longer to respond to my texts when I was away. Our video calls grew shorter with Sophia, often claiming she was tired or had early meetings at the gallery. When I was home, she was frequently on her phone, smiling at messages she quickly hid when I approached. Strangely, Marcus began appearing more frequently at family gatherings, always asking detailed questions about my business. He offered unsolicited legal advice and suggested I consult him before signing any new contracts. At the time, I appreciated what I thought was brotherly concern, even if his tone sometimes felt condescending. My parents ate it up, commenting on how Marcus was looking out for me, and how lucky I was to have such a successful brother willing to help me avoid legal mistakes. I swallowed my pride and thanked him, trying to focus on the major contract I was about to secure that would take my business to the next level. The contract was with a developer planning an eco-friendly residential community. If successful, it would mean financial security and industry recognition. I worked 18-hour days preparing the bid, often crashing at my office instead of driving home. Sophia seemed understanding, but our communication dwindled further. With the contract finally secured, I decided to plan a special weekend for our third anniversary. I told Sophia I would be away until Saturday night, but secretly arranged to finish early and surprise her Friday afternoon. I bought champagne roses and a small velvet box containing the vintage emerald ring she had admired months earlier in an antique shop window. My truck pulled into our driveway at 2:30 p.m. On that Friday, my heart racing with excitement at her reaction to my surprise. That excitement turned to confusion when I spotted a familiar black BMW parked down the street. Marcus owned the same model, but surely he wouldn't park so far from our house if he was visiting. I entered quietly through the garage, planning to maximize the surprise effect. The house was silent, except for faint sounds coming from upstairs. As I climbed the stairs, champagne and flowers in hand, those sounds became clearer, sending ice through my veins. I stood frozen outside our bedroom door for what felt like eternity, hoping I was mistaken about what I was hearing. When I finally pushed the door open, the scene before me shattered everything I thought I knew about my life. Sophia and Marcus tangled in my bed in my home, betraying me in the most intimate way possible. The champagne bottles slipped from my hand, the crash finally alerting them to my presence. What followed that moment feels like a scene from someone else's life, playing in slow motion. Sophia screamed and scrambled for the sheet, while Marcus jumped up, his face showing more annoyance than shame. For a few seconds, nobody spoke. The expensive champagne soaked into our bedroom carpet as the roses lay scattered among broken glass. I felt nothing and everything simultaneously, a strange calm settling over me, even as my world imploded. Sophia found her voice first. She was crying, mascara streaming down her face as she clutched the sheet to her chest. "Jeremy, this is not what it looks like," she stammered, using the most cliché line in the history of betrayal. Marcus was already pulling on his pants, his lawyer brain clearly formulating a defense. "Brother, you need to calm down. This was a mistake. It just happened. We never meant to hurt you." Their words sounded distant and distorted, like they were speaking underwater. I walked to the nightstand and picked up Sophia's phone. She lunged for it, but I stepped back my fingers, moving on autopilot to the text messages. I did not need to search long. The conversation history between Sophia and Marcus stretched back months. Plans for their meetups while I was away, working to build our future. Complaints about me. Declarations of feelings. Strategic discussions about how to tell me eventually. They had not even respected me enough to protect their tracks. "Get out," I said quietly, surprised by how steady my voice sounded despite the hurricane raging inside me. "Jeremy, please," Sophia begged. "It was only a few times. I was lonely when you were always working. We can fix this. Go to counseling." Marcus stepped forward, half-dressed, and somehow looking confident despite the circumstances. "You need to listen, Jeremy. These things happen." Sophia and I connected intellectually in a way that, "Get out," I roared, finally letting the rage surface. I threw the phone against the wall, watching it shatter. "Both of you out of my house in 5 minutes, or I'm calling the police for trespassing." They scrambled to collect their things, Sophia sobbing and Marcus muttering about me being irrational. I walked downstairs and out to the back porch, unable to watch them dress after what they had done. 20 minutes later, I heard 2 cars drive away. The following week passed in a blur. I moved temporarily into my office, buried myself in work, and ignored the barrage of calls and messages from both Sophia and my family. I informed my crew that Sophia was no longer welcome at any job sites and changed the locks on my house. The emerald ring went back to the antique store. 7 days after discovering the betrayal, my mother called and left a voicemail that actually got through my emotional barricade. Her tone was clipped and formal, demanding my presence at the family home that Sunday for an important family discussion. She mentioned that they needed to address the situation like adults. Something in her voice compelled me to agree, perhaps a naive hope that my parents would support me in this nightmare. Sunday arrived, and I drove to my childhood home with a knot in my stomach. When I walked in and saw Sophia's car in the driveway alongside Marcus's BMW, that knot transformed into a block of ice. This was not going to be the supportive family meeting I had foolishly hoped for. I entered my parents' immaculate living room to find a tableau that still burns in my memory. My father and mother sat stiffly on their antique sofa, faces grim. Marcus occupied the leather armchair my father usually reserved for himself, a subtle but telling detail. And there was Sophia perched on the love seat, eyes red and swollen but makeup perfectly applied. "Jeremy," my mother began before I had even fully entered the room, "we need to discuss this situation rationally." My father nodded. "Son, we understand you're upset, but family has to come first in times of crisis." I remained standing suddenly, understanding exactly what this ambush was about. "And what exactly is your definition of family in this scenario?" My mother's eyes narrowed slightly at my tone. "We've always taught you boys that forgiveness is important. Sophia has explained everything to us." I looked at Sophia, who had the audacity to give me a tearful, hopeful smile. "Has she really? Did she explain how she and Marcus have been sleeping together for months while I was working to build a life for us? Did she show you the texts where they planned their meetups?" Marcus stood up. Lawyer mode. Fully. Activated. "Jeremy, you're exaggerating because you're hurt. Sophia and I never planned anything. We had a connection that developed naturally. These things happen." "These things happen," I repeated incredulously. "My brother and my girlfriend betraying me happens naturally." My father cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Son Marcus has explained that their connection is something meaningful. Sometimes relationships end, so that more suitable ones can begin." The word suitable hung in the air, heavy with implication. I looked around the room, the reality of the situation finally crystallizing with perfect, painful clarity. "So that's what this is," I said quietly. "You're not here to support me. You're here to convince me to step aside gracefully so Marcus and Sophia can be together with your blessing." My mother reached for her teacup, avoiding my eyes. "Sophia has been like a daughter to me, Jeremy, and she and Marcus make sense together. They share the same values, the same background. The same values," I laughed bitterly. "Like honesty and loyalty." Sophia finally spoke, her voice practiced and trembling just the right amount. "Jeremy, I never meant to hurt you. But Marcus and we just understand each other in ways that you and I never could. I tried to make it work with you, but I'm just not good enough," I finished for her. "Not educated enough. Not sophisticated enough. Not Marcus." The room fell silent, the truth finally exposed. Then my mother said the words that severed my last connection to them. "Sophia deserves someone stable like Marcus. Someone with a real profession and future. Your brother can provide the life you never could with your construction work." The contempt in her voice, when describing my livelihood, the work I had built from nothing into a successful business, was unmistakable. In that moment, 32 years of conditional love and comparisons crystallized into perfect clarity. Marcus stepped forward, placing his hand possessively on Sophia's shoulder. "We didn't plan this, brother. But now that it's happened, we want to move forward with the family's support. Sophia and I are in love." I looked at each of their faces, the mother who had always found me wanting, the father who had never stood up for me, the brother who had taken everything I ever had, and the woman I had planned to marry. In their eyes I saw nothing but justification, and the expectation that I would eventually accept their version of events. With perfect calm, I walked to the door. "You've made your choice," I said simply. "Now you'll have to live with it." As I walked out of my childhood home, for what I decided would be the last time I heard my mother call my name, I didn't turn back. The decision to leave everything behind came with surprising ease. The major contract I had secured was for a sustainable housing development 300 miles away in Burlington, Vermont. Instead of commuting back and forth as originally planned, I relocated entirely. I sold my house in Boston, quickly accepting a slightly below market offer in exchange for a fast, hassle-free closing. The buyer was a young doctor who paid in cash and didn't quibble over details. The irony that my unstable construction work had provided me with a home valuable enough to attract such a buyer wasn't lost on me. The hardest part was telling my crew about the changes. Most agreed to relocate for the Burlington project, attracted by the generous relocation package I offered. Those who couldn't move received excellent severance and job recommendations. I had always treated my people well, something my family had never understood or valued. My digital separation was equally decisive. I changed my phone number, deleted all social media accounts, and created new email addresses for business purposes only. The only person from my past I maintained contact with was Taylor, a childhood friend who had never particularly liked Sophia or Marcus, and who promised to respect my privacy. Burlington proved to be exactly what I needed. The city's focus on environmental sustainability aligned perfectly with my growing interest in green building techniques. My company quickly developed a reputation for quality, eco-friendly construction, attracting attention from local media. 6 months into my new life, I reconnected with David, a college acquaintance who had studied environmental engineering. Over beers at a local brewery, we discovered our professional interests had aligned perfectly. David had innovative ideas about sustainable building materials, but lacked the practical construction knowledge to implement them. I had the building expertise, but wanted to push further into cutting-edge sustainability. Our partnership formed organically. David joined my company as sustainability director, bringing his research connections and technical knowledge. Together, we rebranded the business as Green Future Builders and expanded our scope beyond residential to include commercial projects with environmental certifications. It was through a meeting with the city's sustainability board that I met Rachel. She was the environmental architect reviewing our proposal for a new community center. During her presentation, she methodically identified flaws in our initial design that none of us had caught then, offered elegant solutions that actually enhanced our vision rather than compromising it. I was impressed by her intelligence and straightforward manner. After the meeting, I asked her professional opinion on another project. That consultation led to coffee, which led to dinner a week later. Unlike the instant chemistry with Sophia, my connection with Rachel built slowly and deliberately. She had recently ended a long relationship herself, and neither of us was rushing into anything new. Rachel understood my trust issues, without me having to explain every detail of my past. When I finally told her the full story, 3 months into our friendship, her response was refreshingly direct. "They did you a favor," she said, sipping her wine. "Imagine finding out who they really were after you were married with children." Around this time, Taylor called with news from Boston. Marcus and Sophia had announced their engagement. My parents were ecstatic, already planning what promised to be an extravagant wedding. According to Taylor, my mother was telling everyone how her perfect son and future daughter-in-law were so ideally matched. I was surprised by my own reaction to this news. Nothing. No pain, no anger, just a vague sense of pity for what they couldn't see coming. Green Future Builders continued to thrive. Our innovative approach to sustainable construction won us a prestigious industry award, resulting in a feature in Architectural Digest. The article highlighted our unique partnership between practical construction expertise and environmental engineering, with particular focus on our use of recycled and locally sourced materials. Apparently, the magazine made its way to Boston. One evening, I received an email from Sophia at my business address. She congratulated me on my success, mentioned how she always believed in my potential, and suggested catching up sometime. I showed the message to Rachel, who raised an eyebrow and helped me block Sophia's email address. 2 weeks later, Taylor called with news that sent a shiver of vindication down my spine. Marcus's law firm was under investigation. Apparently, several clients had filed complaints about missing funds. Marcus's name had been mentioned specifically in connection to misappropriated client trusts. "They're keeping it quiet for now," Taylor said, "but people are talking. His partnership track is definitely on hold." Rachel and I had begun dating officially by this point. She had moved into a brownstone just a few blocks from mine, and we were spending most evenings together. With her, I found something I had never experienced with Sophia: genuine partnership. Rachel challenged me intellectually, while respecting my expertise in construction. We disagreed sometimes, but those disagreements were productive, never manipulative. 8 months after the magazine article, Taylor called again, this time barely containing his excitement. "You won't believe what happened," he began. "Marcus has been caught embezzling from his own firm. Apparently, he's been siphoning client funds for at least 2 years. He's been suspended pending criminal charges, and the firm is cooperating fully with the investigation. The news spread quickly through Boston's legal community. According to Taylor, Marcus had been living far beyond his means, trying to maintain an extravagant lifestyle to impress Sophia. The expensive apartment, luxury vacations, designer clothes, all funded by stolen client money. Sophia made a show of standing by Marcus, publicly giving tearful interviews about believing in his innocence. Privately, she began reaching out to mutual acquaintances, including sending me another email with a thinly veiled suggestion that she had made a mistake and was reconsidering her choices. This time, I didn't just block her. I forwarded the email to Rachel, who suggested we change my business email entirely to prevent further contact. Her protective instinct touched me deeply, healing another piece of the damage Sophia had inflicted. My mother tried calling the business line several times, leaving messages about families supporting each other in difficult times. I never returned the calls. Through Taylor, I learned that my parents were facing their own social fallout. Their friends and colleagues, once impressed by Marcus's legal career and Sophia's gallery connections, were now distancing themselves from the scandal. As Marcus's legal troubles mounted, my business continued to flourish. Green Future Builders expanded to neighboring states, our reputation for quality and innovation preceding us. Rachel and I moved in together, our professional collaboration, enhancing our personal relationship. In a strange way, I had my family to thank for where I was now. Being forced to start fresh had pushed me to take risks I might have avoided otherwise. Walking away from toxic people had cleared space for genuine connections. During this period of growth, I found myself working through my anger in therapy. The betrayal still stung when I allowed myself to think about it, but increasingly I felt something unexpected: gratitude. Not for what they did, but for the freedom their actions ultimately gave me. The day Rachel and I got engaged after a year of dating was the same day Marcus accepted a plea deal for his embezzlement charges. I only learned this weeks later from Taylor, and by then it felt like news from another lifetime. 2 years after cutting all contact with my former life, I ran into Taylor while he was in Burlington for a business conference. Over dinner with him and Rachel, I learned the full extent of what he called the karma tsunami that had hit my family. Marcus had been sentenced to 5 years in prison for embezzlement. The evidence against him was overwhelming, with forensic accountants documenting years of systematic theft from client accounts. His law license was permanently revoked. The best part, Taylor said, unable to hide his satisfaction, was Sophia's reaction. The day after sentencing, she was just gone, took whatever valuables she could carry, and disappeared. Word is she moved to Chicago with some art dealer she met while Marcus was dealing with the investigation. My parents had faced their own reckoning. The scandal had destroyed my father's reputation at the university, where he taught ethics, ironically enough. He had taken early retirement under pressure from the administration. My mother had withdrawn from her social circles after several former friends made pointed comments about her parenting choices. "Your mom tried to reach me a few months ago," Taylor continued. "Wanted your new contact information. Said she had been doing some thinking about how things went down." "What did you tell her?" I asked, more curious than concerned. I said if she had actually apologized, I might have considered it. But she just kept saying they wanted to reconnect as a family. No acknowledgement of what they did to you. I nodded, unsurprised. Rachel squeezed my hand under the table. The construction company Rachel and I had built together was now valued at several $1,000,000. We had been featured in national publications as pioneers in affordable green building. The previous month, we had launched a foundation to train disadvantaged youth in sustainable construction trades, already receiving substantial grant funding. My personal life had flourished alongside our business success. Rachel and I had married in a small ceremony on Lake Champlain, surrounded by friends who had proven their loyalty and colleagues who had become like family. 3 months ago, Rachel had told me she was pregnant, news that filled me with both joy and determination to be a different kind of parent than the ones who had raised me. Through therapy and Rachel's unwavering support, I had come to an important realization: holding on to anger only gave my family continued power over me. I had released the bitterness without re-establishing contact, finding peace in the life I had built, rather than validation from those who had betrayed me. On our wedding day, a letter arrived from my father. Unlike my mother's attempts to reconnect without acknowledgement, his note contained something resembling an apology. He admitted they had always favored Marcus, that they had been blinded by superficial achievements and social status. He expressed regret for their reaction to the betrayal and acknowledged the success I had built without their support. I responded with a brief kind note, thanking him for his words, but making no promises about future contact. Some bridges once burned cannot and should not be rebuilt. As for Marcus, Taylor told me he had been released after serving 3 years of his sentence. He was now working an entry-level job at a friend's real estate office, his legal career and reputation permanently destroyed. His expensive apartment had been sold to cover legal fees and restitution. Sophia's carefully curated social media showed a woman whose external smile never quite reached her eyes. She had married and divorced again now, on her third husband, a significantly older wealthy businessman. The carefully staged photos of luxury vacations and designer shopping bags told a story of someone still chasing external validation. Meanwhile, Rachel and I welcomed our son into a home filled with genuine love and acceptance. As I held his tiny hand in mine, I made a silent promise that he would never know the pain of conditional love or comparison. He would be valued for exactly who he was, not who we wanted him to be. Looking back at the family dinner where they all chose Sophia and Marcus over me, I now recognize it as the moment that set me free. Walking away from people who never truly valued me was the first step toward finding those who did. Have you ever had to cut ties with family members who betrayed your trust? Share your story in the comments below. Like this video if you believe sometimes the greatest gift toxic people can give you is their absence. Subscribe for more stories about rebuilding after betrayal, and share with someone who might need to hear that walking away can lead to something better. Thank you for listening to my journey from betrayal to blessing. Remember, sometimes losing everyone who hurt you is the only way to find yourself.